In this video, I'm going to be discussing how to go about choosing a career. This is often a paralyzing choice for many people, especially if you have the same personality that I have, where you're a thinker. You like to think about things, you like to think about your options, but this can often lead you to no action at all. So today I'm going to be discussing some of the different strategies and different ways to think about choosing a career that could really help you out if you're struggling with making this decision. There are many challenges, and we can often hype ourselves up into thinking that this is going to be one of the most important decisions that we make. It's our future, it's going to be the rest of our lives, and it can often lead to there being a lot of pressure in making the decision. So how do we reduce that? So the first thing you need to do is just reduce the internal pressure on yourself. Stop thinking about it as a completely permanent decision. Careers are very malleable things. Jobs come and go, your coworkers come and go, people come and go, and life happens. I was discussing some of my personal career struggles with somebody who's close to me. The best piece of advice was that you don't have to do it forever. If you're struggling with a decision or you have some equally good options and you just can't choose between them, but you don't want to wake up every single day going to work and hating the thing that you're doing, choose something that you'll be satisfied and happy with for at least the next 5 or 10 years, but not necessarily forever. This way you can find a nice balance between something you'll actually enjoy doing and be able to endure for a reasonable amount of time to see if that thing will actually work out, and the contrast of this being the overwhelming once-in-a-lifetime decision. As my grandfather used to say, date the job, marry the girl. Just kidding, he never said that. He worked at the same company for his entire career. But seriously, this framework has really helped me kind of relieve some of the pressure off of making a decision about your career and what you want to do with your life, because it doesn't have to be your entire life. It can be just for a season. So once you've calmed yourself down, the next thing you want to do is think about your skills and abilities. What are you good at? What would you see yourself getting paid to do? What is something that you're kind of naturally disposed to? Maybe in school you were really good with numbers. Maybe you were really interested in tinkering with things. Maybe you really like taking care of people. Whatever the things that really speak to you are, take inventory of what that is. It's also around this time that you might begin to realize that you need a diploma or a degree to do the things that you want to do. So you should also think about your willingness to study full-time to get to the end goal that you're looking for, or maybe you would rather study part-time while working full-time. Factor that into the equation as well, because there is an opportunity cost of not working when you are in school. You could be working, you could be making money, but you're in school learning instead, and there is a cost to that that isn't just paying tuition. So not only do you pay tuition, but you pay with the opportunity cost of not being able to work while you're doing school full time. If the job that you want really requires school, or the trade-off at the end is very worth it, then you might consider the lost income to be a worthwhile decision. For example, doctors can take a solid 8 years of life in education before they start earning any real income at all. So maybe you're willing to play the long game, maybe not. You just have to come up with what you're willing to do. Maybe you're the type of person, like I think I am, where you'd rather just learn on the job. This would be more along the lines of taking an apprenticeship, or even just going straight into the workforce, starting at some low-level job at a company. Maybe you're just an admin assistant, but you're starting somewhere and you're willing to learn, and you spend all of your free time at the company learning to upgrade your skills within a certain company or within a particular job. So eventually over time, you can kind of hop between different categories and different jobs, learn all the skills that you need to become a well-rounded individual, and maybe even become an operator of your own business similar to the one that you were working in. I find for me personally, I work better by doing. I also do have a capacity for learning theory. I did get pretty solid grades in high school when it comes to numbers and economics, and I really enjoy reading and I enjoy writing, as these YouTube videos show. The mix of those things would probably be good for me to look for my kind of on-the-job skill set that's required. I also, for myself, would need to factor in that I have an engineering degree, which I obtained very recently, along with a business minor, and can reflect on this and think to myself that my accounting and finance courses were the courses I enjoyed the most throughout that degree, so that might point me in a certain direction. And I know that I can take 3 years to obtain a CPA and go to school part-time while still earning an income, which also hits my criteria because I'm a little bit mentally still burnt out and recovering from 5 years of engineering, doing school part-time rather than going into another full-time program would speak to me a little bit more. The next thing you want to do is kind of take stock of your past work experiences and see if maybe you can use those as a launching pad to get you to the next thing. For me, I worked as a lifeguard and a swim instructor in high school. I was a teaching assistant and lab instructor at my university, and I have experience developing some small websites. I'm somewhat adept at understanding basic coding problems. I could potentially be a web designer or programmer with that experience. I also have experience making content and growing channels and social platforms. It's important to kind of think of every single option that you can. Right now, all we're doing is we're just gathering the different choices that you have, and we'll eliminate them in a moment. Once you've kind of taken stock of your skills, your past experiences, and all of the possibilities, you want to factor in the type of lifestyle that you want from your job. Are you the kind of person who's okay working 80 hours a week at a finance job in order to get a huge payout in 10 years? Or would you rather do something that isn't working 80 hours a week so you have time to work on your own hobbies or personal projects at home, and maybe you need a more balanced work life? Do you want the job to be hybrid? Do you want it to be remote completely? Do you prefer talking with customers and clients? Do you prefer sitting in front of a computer and solving problems in a spreadsheet or with code? Or maybe you want the 2 month summer vacation that teachers get. These are all different factors that you need to consider in the lifestyle that you're most looking for. And you might also want to consider what the upward mobility is in a particular career path, and if there is a possibility that you can start a business, which is one of the factors that I factor in anytime I'm having a kind of career decision in my head. I always think to myself, will I be able to, after a certain number of years training and learning, start up my own business using the skill set that I've gained? So now that you have what you want from your job with respect to work-life balance and lifestyle, and the types of jobs that you might be able to get, the willingness to go to school, and all of those other factors, you can start eliminating things that don't line up with what you're most looking for. I'm going to start by thinking about which careers are most adept at building a small business. There are a lot of options here. You can do trades, because once you're fully certified, you can start up your own shop. Same thing goes for accounting. You need to build up a clientele, which, as I've learned from real estate sales, is much harder than it seems. So doing something that I can kind of do one thing and then build up a client base on the side while I still have my main thing can really kind of help balance out the waves that come with running your own business, because I have learned that there are very high highs and very low lows when you're running your own business, especially if you don't have consistent clientele. So for me, what I think would look the best is maybe having a full-time job and then doing these little things on the side that I like to do, like posting YouTube videos, doing my real estate sales, and kind of doing them all at the same time. If it's important to you, think about how you can get to the eventual end goal, but while also enjoying the thing that you're doing in the meanwhile. So for me, if I was to look at all of the experience that I've had, I'd say the thing I'm probably most experienced in would be teaching of some form, whether it's through video, in person, in classes, in the pool. I teach in many different ways. So theoretically, that path actually makes a lot of sense. But there are a few things that are going to stop me from doing it. The first one is right now I'm not in a place where I'm ready to do 2 years of full-time teacher's college. That's a bit crazy to me, considering that I have an engineering degree and I'm a little more interested in accounting than I am in teaching. While teaching does enable you to have time off when your kids have time off, you have the summer months off, you have a pretty solid work-life balance situation, I know that it is an exhausting job. And I've had that experience to tell me that kind of being one-on-one and being a K-12 teacher is something that I would have to work really hard every single day to make myself engaged in the work. Regular day-to-day classroom teaching, I don't think is the place for me. At least for the time being. Things can change, obviously. So just to make things easier, I'm going to eliminate that one off of my list, because in my mind there are more cons than there are pros, and I don't really match the profile that I'm looking for over here. So then I always kind of end up in this place where I'm stuck between these two decisions, so accounting and engineering. Both have pros and cons. For example, engineering is pretty stable, not a lot of super crazy overtime, but it's also a challenging enough job that I would probably find the work interesting. Accounting is also very stable. I absolutely love the subject. I love the world of finance, and I'm one of those crazy people who actually enjoys doing their taxes. The downsides comparing these two is that accounting has a bit of a longer tail to get to the higher income levels, but there is also more flexibility to work remotely or at least hybrid, while in engineering, unless you're doing only software, it will generally require you to be in person, commute, work with teams. So from a flexibility standpoint, I think accounting takes the win there. From a personality standpoint, it's really hard for me to choose between accounting and engineering. I kind of feel like I am simultaneously a business nerd and an engineering nerd. And it's really hard for me to kind of figure out what to do with these two sides of me. I have tried at some point doing full-time engineering work, and while I do enjoy coding and solving problems, it was oftentimes much more frustrating than it was fun. So I get why software engineers make so much money, because they're not solving easy problems. Like, you are really using your brain all day long doing that job. I don't have an issue doing that, but I can see how over time that just really becomes draining and exhausting and can lead to the same type of burnout that I felt while I was in school. And I don't really want that. So from that perspective, I think I'm leaning slightly more towards accounting. I know there are a few crunch seasons throughout the year, usually at the end of each quarter and during tax time. But I think longer term, I can wake up every day and feel better about going to an accounting job just because I purely find those types of things more interesting. I could go on and on talking about pros, cons, this, that, but you hopefully see where I'm coming from. And you see that there are different ways to adapt the career. If you're doing something that's sort of working, but not really, like my real estate is, maybe instead of doing it full time and not making very much money, you change it to part time and you give yourself the ability to slowly roll the ball and turn it into something bigger, but you also look for something more stable in the meanwhile. I think one of the important morals of the story is you have to try to match yourself to the type of work that you're looking for. It would be awesome if you found a job that you could do all day long and just doesn't feel like work at all. But if you aren't sure exactly what speaks to you, you don't have to commit to it for the rest of your life. You can give it 5 years, see how it goes, see if you like it. And it turns out, if you don't like it very much, there are tons of educational institutions just ready to take your money and teach you something else. Try to find a place where you really like the people you work with. This is another thing that doesn't really fall into the selection category very much, but is extremely important. Most of the time, I find that the job actually doesn't really matter all that much to me. Like, I could do various different things and feel pretty content with what I'm doing. But if you don't have friends that you're working with, or maybe the people you're working with just really suck, it can make it terrible to go into work every day. Any job that I've had in the past, I have really enjoyed the people that I worked with, and the ones where I didn't really enjoy the people I work with, I ended up leaving pretty quickly, and I didn't last very long because I just didn't really connect with them. So depending on your personality, social environment can be quite an important consideration. Generally, if you're in a bad social environment, you might just want to look at switching companies instead of completely switching careers. So learn as you go, talk to people that have experience doing the thing that you want to do, learn from them about what it's like, do informational interviews, take stock of your past experiences, pick a direction and commit to it. A career is usually a winding path and almost never a straight line. And all of this is definitely 1,000% easier for me to say than it is to do it. Finding a job does really suck sometimes, especially when you're just firing out resumes and not getting any responses back. And you just kind of have to embrace the suck. Keep your head up, keep grinding, practice for your interviews, and just do your best. Don't take anything in the process too personally, just keep going and you'll get there. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see my latest video, you can click over here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.